They say desperation makes you do terrible things. I never believed it until the night I agreed to give my body to a monster. The Alpha King didn't ask for my name. He didn't ask if I wanted this. He just looked at me with those cold predator eyes and growled 6 words that shattered my world. Straight to my bed. I need an heir. But when I stepped into that room, when he caught my scent, everything stopped. His eyes went wide, his breath caught, and for the first time in his brutal reign, King Rowan Thorne looked afraid. The entire pack felt it, the shift in the air, the crack in his armor. Because the Omega standing before him wasn't supposed to exist. And the secret I carried? It could destroy the Thorne bloodline, or become the most powerful heir the Red Crest Pack has ever known. My name is Eli Morgan, 22 years old, human-raised, broken, desperate. I came to the Citadel for one reason, to save my dying brother. I didn't come for love, I didn't come for fate. I came because I had no other choice. The king needed an heir, I needed a miracle. So I made a deal with the devil himself. But what he saw when I walked through that door, what he smelled in my scent, changed everything. Now the question isn't whether I'll survive his bed, it's whether I'll survive what comes after. And whether the pack will let me live long enough to figure out why the seers chose me, a broken Omega with nothing left to lose. But first, let me tell you how I got here. I was kneeling on the cracked linoleum floor of our studio apartment in South Boston, holding my brother's hand while he coughed blood into a towel. The rain hammered against the single window like it was trying to break through. Each drop felt like a countdown. Each shallow breath Jamie took sounded like a rattle, like his lungs were giving up. Eli, he whispered, his voice so thin I had to lean in close. You don't have to keep doing this. I pressed the damp cloth to his forehead. His skin was burning, had been burning for days. Shut up, I said, forcing my voice to stay steady. You're going to be fine. He smiled. God, he smiled. Even with blood on his teeth, even with his body wasting away to nothing. You're a terrible liar. He was right. I'd sold everything. Dad's guitar from before he left. Mom's wedding ring, the only thing she'd left us when she died. I'd pawned my laptop, my phone, even the winter coats we'd need in 2 months. All of it went to doctors who couldn't help, to medicines that didn't work, to a system that didn't care about 2 Omega brothers with no pack, no family, no money. The wasting sickness, they called it, a polite name for a brutal thief. It took his strength first, then his color, then his hope. I watched my little brother disappear piece by piece, and I couldn't do a damn thing to stop it. The clinic called again, I said, changing the subject. They said there's a new treatment, experimental. It's expensive, but Eli, his hand tightened on mine. Stop. I can pick up another shift at the diner, maybe 2. Mrs. Chen said, Eli, stop. I stopped. The rain filled the silence between us. Somewhere down the hall, our neighbor's TV blared through paper-thin walls, a laugh track, canned happiness. I'm not going to make it, Jamie said, simple, honest, like he was telling me the weather. Don't say that. Someone has to. He coughed again, his whole body shaking with it. When it passed, he looked at me with those gray eyes, the same shade as mine, the same ones we got from Mom. You've done enough. You've been taking care of me since I was 12. You're 22, Eli. You should be living your life, not watching me die. My throat closed up. I wanted to scream at him. Tell him he was wrong. Tell him I'd find a way. But we both knew the truth. I had $73 in my bank account. Rent was due in 5 days. The clinic wouldn't even see him without insurance. And we'd lost that months ago when I got fired from my last job for missing too many shifts. We were drowning, and there was no lifeline coming. That night, after Jamie finally fell asleep, I sat at our tiny kitchen table and stared at the eviction notice on the counter. 14 days. In 14 days, we'd be on the street, and Jamie wouldn't survive that. He barely survived now, with a roof over his head and a bed to sleep in. I dropped my head into my hands. I didn't cry, couldn't afford to. Tears were a luxury for people who still had hope. That's when I heard it. 3 heavy knocks on the door. Not the gentle tap of Mrs. Chen from next door, bringing soup she pretended was extra. Not the aggressive pounding of the landlord. This was different. This was authority. My heart stopped. I stood slowly, every muscle tense, and crossed to the door. Through the peephole, I saw them. 3 figures in black tactical gear, body armor, the kind of presence that didn't belong in a rundown apartment building in Southie. And on their chests, stitched in silver thread, was a symbol that made my blood run cold. A wolf's head, snarling, jaws wide, the red crest pack. I fumbled with the chain lock, my hands shaking so badly I could barely slide it open. Can I help you? The lead guard was massive, easily 6'5", shoulders like a linebacker, with a scar cutting through his left eyebrow. His eyes were the color of steel, cold, empty. He didn't smile, didn't even blink. Eli Morgan? Hearing my name in that voice, low, flat, absolute, sent ice down my spine. I managed a nod. He held out a scroll. Black silk cord, dark red wax seal stamped with that same snarling wolf. By order of His Majesty, King Rowan Thorne, sovereign of the Red Crest Pack, you are summoned to the Citadel, immediately. The world tilted. Summoned. King Rowan Thorne. The Red Crest Citadel. None of this made sense. I was nobody. A human-raised Omega with no pack, no connections, no lineage. I'd never even seen a Lycan in person before, let alone their king. There's been a mistake, I stammered. I don't know anyone in the pack. I've never. The king does not make mistakes. The guard's tone didn't change, didn't soften. You have 10 minutes to gather your things and say your goodbyes. Goodbyes. The word punched through my chest. For how long? His gaze didn't waver. Indefinitely. Panic clawed up my throat. I can't, the words tumbled out. My brother, he's sick, he's dying. I'm all he has. I can't just leave him here. The guard's expression didn't shift. If anything, it got harder. The king's command supersedes all mortal concerns. Refusal is treason. He looked past me, through the crack in the door, to where Jamie lay in the bed across the room. The punishment for treason is death. He paused. Let it sink in. For you, and for anyone who shelters you. The floor dropped out from under me. This wasn't a request. It was a kidnapping dressed up in formal parchment. If I refused, they'd kill me right here. And Jamie, alone, sick, helpless, would die in this apartment with no one to even call an ambulance. If I went, I might never see him again. Either way, I was losing him. I looked back over my shoulder. Jamie was awake now, propped up on one elbow, his face pale and tight with fear. Eli, don't! But what choice did I have? The guard was still watching me, waiting. I swallowed hard, tasted metal and terror. Why? My voice cracked. Why me? I'm nobody. I don't understand. For the first time, something flickered in the guard's eyes. Not sympathy. Something closer to disdain. The king needs an heir. The royal seers performed the rite of flames. Your name emerged from the fire. He said it like it explained everything. Like it wasn't the most insane thing I'd ever heard. An heir, I repeated slowly. King Rowan Thorne, a creature of brutal power. A alpha so feared that even other packs whispered his name like a curse, needed a human Omega to bear his child. It was unheard of. Lycans didn't breed with humans. Their bloodlines were sacred, pure. Humans were tolerated, taxed, used for labor. But never this. Never this. The violation of it made my skin crawl. The clinical coldness, the erasure of everything I was. I wasn't being honored. I was being used, a womb for rent, a vessel, a tool. I turned back to Jamie. His eyes were wide, wet. Eli, please, don't do this. I crossed the room in 3 steps and dropped to my knees beside his bed. Listen to me. I grabbed his hand. So thin now, all bones and papery skin. I have to go, but I'm going to fix this. I'm going to make sure you get the treatment. The best doctors. Everything. I don't care about that, he choked out. I care about you. I pressed my forehead to his, felt his fever burning through my skin. I'll be okay, I lied. I promise. I kissed his forehead, memorized the feeling. The smell of him, sweat and sickness in the laundry detergent I could barely afford. Then I stood. I didn't pack anything, didn't grab a coat or a bag. I just walked to the door. The guard stepped aside. I looked at him, this faceless soldier who just destroyed my life. My brother gets care, immediately, the best physicians, the best medicine, everything he needs. The guard's eyebrow lifted a fraction. You're in no position to make demands. I'm in the only position that matters. My voice was steadier than I felt. You need me willing, don't you? A screaming, fighting Omega isn't going to give your king a healthy heir. My cooperation is your currency. This is the price. For a long moment, he just stared at me. Then slowly he nodded. It will be done. I stepped into the hallway. The door closed behind me with a soft, final click. And just like that, my old life ended. The guards flanked me immediately. I didn't resist, didn't fight. What would be the point? They led me down the narrow stairwell, past Mrs. Chen's door. I could hear her TV through the thin walls, some late-night talk show, and out into the rain. A black SUV waited at the curb, sleek, expensive, the kind of vehicle that didn't belong in this neighborhood. One of the guards opened the back door. I hesitated. This was it, the last moment I could run, scream, make a scene. But Jamie's face flashed in my mind, his fever, his blood-stained towel. I climbed in. The interior was all black leather and tinted windows. It smelled like expensive cologne and something else, something wild and sharp that made the hair on my arm stand up. The door slammed shut. The engine purred to life, and we pulled away from the curb. I twisted around, looked back through the rear window at the building. 4th floor, second window from the left. Jamie's window. I couldn't see him, but I knew he was there, watching. I pressed my hand to the glass. I'll come back, I promise. The building disappeared around a corner, swallowed by rain and darkness. I turned back around, my chest so tight I could barely breathe. The scarred guard sat across from me, silent and still as a statue. The other two were up front, separated by a privacy screen. We drove in silence. I stared out the window, watching South Boston blur past. The dive bars, the corner stores, the chain-link fences and cracked sidewalks. My whole life contained in these few blocks, and now I was leaving it behind. For what? To be some alpha king's broodmare? To carry a child I didn't want for a man I'd never met? My hands clenched into fists in my lap. The city gave way to suburbs, then to nothing. Just dark roads and empty fields, and the occasional flicker of distant lights. I had no idea where we were going. The Red Crest Citadel was somewhere north. That's all I knew. Somewhere in the mountains. Somewhere away from everything human. Time became meaningless. Could have been an hour. Could have been 3. Eventually, the road started climbing, winding, the trees pressed in close on both sides, their branches forming a canopy overhead that blocked out even the rain-heavy sky. Then I saw it. Gates, massive, black iron, easily 20 feet tall. They swung open as we approached, smooth and silent. Beyond them, the road continued up, carved into the side of a mountain. And at the top, my breath caught. The Citadel. It looked like something out of a nightmare. A fortress of black stone and towering walls, built into the mountain itself like it had grown there. Torches blazed in iron sconces, casting everything in flickering orange light. It wasn't beautiful, it was brutal. The SUV pulled through a second set of gates into a massive courtyard. Lichens everywhere. I'd never seen so many in one place. They moved through the space like apex predators, tall, broad, powerful. Some were in human form, dressed in tactical gear or fine clothes. Others were mid-shift, their eyes glowing in the torchlight, their movements too fluid, too wrong to be fully human. They all stopped and stared as the SUV rolled past. Their eyes tracked me through the tinted windows. I felt it. The weight of their attention, the hostility. A human omega in the heart of their territory. I might as well have been a rabbit in a den of wolves. The SUV stopped in front of a set of enormous double doors. The scarred guard opened my door. Out! I climbed out on shaking legs. The cold hit me immediately. Mountain air. Sharp and thin and so much colder than the city. I wrapped my arms around myself, but it didn't help. The guard gestured toward the doors. Move! I moved. The doors swung open as I approached, revealing a vast entrance hall. Stone floors, vaulted ceilings lost in shadow, tapestries on the walls depicting hunts and battles, wolves tearing into prey, alphas standing over fallen enemies. Everything here was designed to intimidate, and it was working. We passed through hallway after hallway, each one colder and darker than the last. Lycans stopped to watch us pass, nobles in silk and fur, warriors in leather, servants in plain gray uniforms. All of them stared. I kept my eyes forward, kept walking. Finally, we stopped in front of another set of double doors. These were different, carved from dark wood so polished it looked wet. The carvings showed a massive wolf pack running beneath a full moon. And at the center, the alpha, larger than the rest, jaws open in a silent howl, the king's chambers. My heart slammed against my ribs. The scarred guard turned to me. Wait here. The king will summon you when he's ready. Then he and the other guards took up positions on either side of the doors. Statues. I was alone. I stood there in the hallway, shivering in my thin hoodie and jeans, and tried not to fall apart. What was I supposed to do? What was I supposed to say? I didn't know the protocol, didn't know the rules. I was a human omega from Southie who'd never even met a Lycan before tonight, and now I was about to face their king. Minutes crawled by, 5, 10, every second felt like an eternity. I could hear sounds from inside the room, movement, a low voice, too muffled to make out words, but deep enough to feel in my chest. My legs were shaking so badly I thought I might collapse. Breathe, just breathe. I focused on Jamie, on the promise I'd made. The guards said he'd get care, the best physicians, the best medicine. I had to believe that. I had to believe this nightmare had a purpose. A howl echoed somewhere deep in the citadel, long, mournful. It was answered by another, then another. The sound raised every hair on my body. Then, silence. The doors swung open. No creak, no groan. Just smooth, silent movement. A figure stood silhouetted against firelight, massive, broad-shouldered, a wall of muscle and shadow. He didn't turn around, didn't acknowledge me, just stood there, his back to me, staring into the flames of an enormous fireplace. Enter! The voice was a low, rough growl. Not a request, a command. It vibrated through my bones, hit something primal in my brain that screamed predator. I couldn't move. My feet were glued to the floor. Enter, he repeated, and this time there was an edge to it. Impatience. Warning. I forced my legs to move. 1 step, 2. I crossed the threshold. The doors closed behind me with a soft, final thud. The sound of a trap snapping shut. I stood there, frozen in the center of the room. It was huge. Fireplace roaring, dark furniture, furs everywhere, and him, still standing with his back to me, still not turning around. The silence stretched. My heart was so loud I was sure he could hear it. Finally, he moved. Slowly. He turned. And I saw King Rowan Thorne for the first time. He was taller than I'd imagined, easily 6'7", shoulders so broad they blocked out the fireplace behind him. He wasn't wearing royal robes or armor, just a dark shirt rolled up to his elbows and black pants. His hair was dark, almost black, and slightly messy, like he'd been running his hands through it. But it was his eyes that froze me in place. Gold, not brown, not hazel. Gold, bright and burning and utterly inhuman. Wolf eyes. He looked at me, really looked, and for the first time since this nightmare began, I saw something flicker across his face, confusion, Then shock. His nostrils flared. He took a sharp breath in. His entire body went rigid. What? His voice came out rough, strangled. What are you? I didn't understand the question. I'm Eli Morgan. I was summoned. I know who you are. He took a step toward me, then another. His movements were tense, predatory. What I want to know is what you are. I'm an Omega. I don't... He was right in front of me now, so close I could feel the heat radiating off him. He leaned in, inhaled, and his eyes went wide. Impossible. He stepped back like I'd burned him. His hand came up to his face, covering his mouth and nose. His chest rose and fell too fast, too hard, like he couldn't get enough air. Your Majesty, I whispered, my voice shaking. I don't understand. Be quiet. The command cracked through the room like a whip. I shut my mouth. He paced away from me, ran both hands through his hair and turned back. Those gold eyes raked over me from head to toe. Not with desire, with assessment. Like I was a puzzle he couldn't solve. The seers, he said slowly, more to himself than to me, they said the flames chose you. They said your bloodline could carry the air without... He stopped, shook his head. But they didn't tell me this. Tell you what? The words slipped out before I could stop them. His gaze snapped to mine. For a moment I thought he'd yell, lash out. Instead, he just stared. You really don't know? He said quietly. Know what? He turned away again, his broad shoulders tight with tension. The firelight cast his shadow across the floor, massive, looming. It doesn't matter, he said finally. What's done is done. The rite was performed. The flames spoke. You're here now. He walked to a heavy wooden desk in the corner and poured something amber from a crystal decanter into a glass. Drank it in one swallow. Set the glass down harder than necessary. The guards told you why you were summoned. It wasn't a question. Yes, I managed. Then you understand your purpose. My purpose, like I was a thing, a tool. Anger flared hot in my chest, burning through the fear. I understand you need an heir, I said, keeping my voice as steady as I could. And I understand I don't have a choice. He turned to look at me over his shoulder. One eyebrow raised. No, he said, you don't. The bluntness of it stole my breath. But, he continued, turning fully to face me, neither do I. That surprised me. He crossed his arms over his chest, leaning back against the desk. The Red Crest Pack has enemies on every border, rival packs who see weakness in the fact that I have no heir. No bloodline to continue after me. His jaw tightened. If I fall, the pack falls. Chaos, civil war, thousands dead. He said it without emotion, just cold, brutal fact. The seers performed the rite to find someone whose blood could survive the birth. Someone strong enough to carry a full Lycan heir. His gold eyes fixed on mine. They found you. But I'm human, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. I'm not strong. I'm nobody. Apparently, he said slowly, you're more than that. The way he said it made my skin prickle. Like he knew something I didn't. Like I was missing a piece of my own story. I don't understand. You don't need to. He pushed off the desk and walked toward the fireplace again. All you need to understand is this. You will stay here. You will be provided for. And when the time comes, you will give me an heir. The clinical coldness of it made my stomach turn. And my brother. I forced the words out. The guard said he'd be taken care of. Rowan's gaze slid to me. For a moment, something almost like surprise flickered across his face. Your brother. He's dying, I said, and my voice cracked despite my best effort to keep it steady. The wasting sickness. He needs treatment, medicine, physicians. That's the only reason I came. That's the only reason I'm here. The room fell silent except for the crackle of the fire. Rowan stared at me like he was seeing me for the first time. You didn't come for power, he said slowly, or status, or wealth. No. You came to save someone. Yes. Another long silence. Then he moved to the desk and picked up a small silver bell. Rang it once. The sound was clear and sharp. Almost immediately the door opened. A woman entered, tall, lichen, probably in her 50s, with silver-streaked dark hair pulled back in a severe bun. She wore a crisp gray dress and moved with quiet authority. Her eyes, pale blue and cold, swept over me with open disdain. "Your Majesty," she said, bowing her head slightly. "Vivian," Rowan said, "this is Eli Morgan. He is to be my consort." The word hit me like a slap. Consort. Vivian's expression didn't change, but I saw her jaw tighten. "Arrange for his brother?" Rowan paused, glanced at me. "What's his name?" "Jamie," I whispered. "Jamie Morgan. He's in South Boston, wasting sickness. Send Dr. Callum immediately with a full medical team. I want him brought here to the Citadel's medical wing. Spare no expense." Vivian's eyebrow lifted a fraction. "Your Majesty, the medical wing is reserved for PAC members." Did I stutter? The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Vivian's mouth snapped shut. "No, Your Majesty." "Then see it done, tonight." She bowed stiffly. "As you command." She turned to leave, but Rowan's voice stopped her. "And Vivian?" "Yes, Your Majesty?" "Eli will need quarters, adjoining mine. See to it that he has everything he requires." Her lips pressed into a thin line. "Of course." She left without another word. The door closed. I stood there shaking, trying to process what had just happened. He'd done it. Just like that. One command and Jamie would be saved. The best doctors, the best medicine. Everything I couldn't give him. "Thank you," I breathed. Rowan's gaze cut to me. "Don't thank me," he said flatly. "This is a transaction. You give me an heir, I give you your brother's life." He walked toward me again, and I had to tilt my head back to maintain eye contact. "Nothing more. Nothing less." His scent hit me suddenly. Cedar, smoke, something wild and dark underneath. It made my head swim, made something in my chest pull tight. He noticed. His nostrils flared again. "We have 3 weeks," he said, his voice dropping lower. "The next full moon, that's when the bond must be sealed, when the heir must be conceived. 3 weeks. Until then," he continued, "you'll stay here. Learn our ways. Prepare yourself." He turned and walked to the door connecting to another room. Paused with his hand on the handle. "Get some rest, Eli Morgan," he said without looking back. "You're going to need it." Then he was gone. And I was alone. I stood there in the center of his chambers, listening to the silence he left behind. My legs felt weak. I sank down onto the edge of a massive leather chair near the fire, my hands shaking in my lap. What the hell just happened? He'd looked at me like I was a ghost, like I was something that shouldn't exist. And that scent thing, the way he'd recoiled, the way his whole body had gone rigid. What did he smell? I lifted my arm, pressed my nose to the inside of my wrist. I smelled like rain, like the cheap soap from our apartment, like fear, sweat, and exhaustion. Nothing special. Nothing that should make an alpha king look afraid. The door opened again. I jumped to my feet, but it wasn't Rowan. It was Vivian, the severe woman from before. Behind her, 2 younger women in gray uniforms carried armfuls of fabric. Vivian's cold blue eyes swept over me with barely concealed disgust. "Come," she said sharply. "Your quarters are ready." I followed her through a side door I hadn't noticed before. It led to a smaller room, though smaller was relative. It was still twice the size of the apartment I'd shared with Jamie. A 4-poster bed dominated one wall, draped in dark blue fabric. A fireplace already blazing. Tall windows that looked out over dark mountains and endless forest. Furniture that probably cost more than I'd made in my entire life. It was beautiful. It was a cage. "The king's chambers are through that door," Vivian said, pointing to a heavy wooden door on the far wall. "It will remain locked unless he summons you." The 2 servants began laying out clothes on the bed. Shirts, pants, all in dark, expensive fabrics. "You will bathe," Vivian continued, her tone brisk and clinical. "You will dress in appropriate clothing. You will eat what is brought to you. Tomorrow, your education begins." "Education?" Her lip curled slightly. You cannot be presented to the pack looking and acting like a street rat. You will learn our customs, our hierarchy, how to conduct yourself in the presence of nobility. She said it like I was a trained animal, something to be housebroken. My jaw tightened, but I said nothing. Pick your battles, Eli. The king has commanded that you be treated with respect, Vivian said, and the way she emphasized the word made it clear what she thought of that command. So you will be, but do not mistake civility for acceptance. She turned to leave, then paused. One more thing. I waited. Do not wander the citadel alone. You have no pack protection here, no status. If you leave these rooms without an escort, I cannot guarantee your safety. It wasn't a threat. It was a warning. She left, the servants trailing behind her. The door closed. I was alone again. I walked to the window and pressed my forehead against the cold glass. The view was dizzying. We were so high up. The forest below looked like a dark ocean, and beyond it, nothing but mountains and sky. Somewhere out there, miles away, Jamie was in our apartment. Was Dr. Callum there yet? Were they helping him? God, I hope so. A soft knock at the door made me turn. Come in. One of the servants from before entered, carrying a tray. She was young, maybe 19 or 20. Blonde hair pulled back in a braid. Her eyes were a warm brown, and unlike Vivian, she didn't look at me like I was dirt. I brought you food, sir, she said quietly, setting the tray on a small table near the fire. Mistress Vivian said you'd need to eat. The smell hit me. Roasted chicken, fresh bread, soup that actually smelled like vegetables and herbs, not the canned stuff I'd been living on. My stomach clenched with sudden, desperate hunger. When was the last time I ate? Yesterday? The day before? Thank you, I said, my voice rough. She hesitated, then gave me a small, shy smile. I'm Kara, she said. I've been assigned to attend you during your stay. Attend me, like I was someone important. It felt wrong. You don't have to call me sir, I said. Eli is fine. Her eyes widened slightly. Oh, I couldn't. Mistress Vivian said, Vivian isn't here, I said gently. And I'm not royalty or anything. I stopped. What was I? I'm just me. Kara's smile grew a little. All right then, Eli. She moved to the fireplace and added another log, even though it was already blazing. Can I ask you something? I said. She glanced back. Of course. What did the king mean when he asked what I am? Her hands stilled on the fire poker. I don't know what you mean. She was lying. I could see it in the way she wouldn't meet my eyes. He smelled me, I pressed, and he looked shocked, like I was something he didn't expect. Kara bit her lip. I really shouldn't. Please. She turned to face me fully, her expression conflicted. I'm only a servant, she said quietly. I don't know the king's mind, but, she hesitated. There are rumors about the rite, about why the seers had to search so hard to find someone compatible. Compatible with what? With the king's bloodline. She lowered her voice even more, glancing at the door like she was afraid someone might hear. Most humans can't survive bearing a full lichen child. The pregnancy is too violent. The birth, she shook her head. It tears them apart from the inside. Ice slid down my spine. But the seers found you, Kara continued, which means there's something in your blood, something strong enough to survive it. I'm human, I said. I was raised human. I don't have any lichen blood. Then how did the flames choose you? The question hung in the air between us. I didn't have an answer. Kara's expression softened with something like pity. I should go, she said. But if you need anything, just ring the bell by the bed. I'll come. She left before I could ask anything else. I stood there staring at the closed door. Something in my blood. Something strong enough to survive a lichen pregnancy. But I was human. I'd lived my whole life as human. Mom was human. Dad, I stopped. Dad. I didn't know anything about my father. He'd left when I was 4. Just disappeared one night and never came back. Mom never talked about him. And when she died, she took whatever secret she had to the grave. What if? No. That was crazy, wasn't it? I walked to the tray of food and sat down, forced myself to eat, even though my stomach was in knots. The chicken was perfect. The bread was warm. The soup tasted like actual food, not survival. But I barely tasted any of it. My mind was spinning. Fragments, questions, pieces that didn't fit. The way Rowan had reacted to my scent. The way Vivian had looked at me with such cold hatred. The way Kara had said, "Something in your blood," like it was a fact, not a theory. I pushed the tray away and walked to the connecting door, the one that led to Rowan's chambers. I pressed my ear against it. Silence. Was he still in there? Was he awake? Did he know what I was even if I didn't? I pulled back, my heart racing. Tomorrow, Vivian had said, tomorrow my education would begin. Tomorrow I'd start learning how to survive in this world of predators and politics and ancient bloodlines. But tonight I was just Eli Morgan, a terrified Omega from South Boston who traded his body to save his brother. And somehow, impossibly, I'd become the key to a throne I didn't understand and a mystery I couldn't solve. I walked to the bed and sat on the edge. The mattress was so soft it felt like sinking into a cloud. I should sleep, I should rest. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw those gold wolf eyes staring at me, heard that rough voice. "What are you?" I didn't know, but I had a feeling I was about to find out. The connecting door opened. I shot to my feet, my heart slamming into my throat. Rowan stood in the doorway, still dressed in the same dark shirt and pants. The firelight from his room backlit him, turning him into a silhouette of shadow and power. "You're still awake," he said. Not a question, an observation. Yes. My voice came out too thin. I couldn't sleep. He stepped into my room and I had to force myself not to back away. He moved like a predator, every step deliberate, controlled. He stopped a few feet from me, those gold eyes tracking my face. "You have questions," he said. "A lot of them." His mouth twitched, almost a smile, but not quite. "Ask." I blinked. "Just like that? Would you prefer I make you beg?" Heat flushed up my neck. "No." "Then ask." I took a breath, steadied myself. "What did you smell when I walked in? What was it that made you look at me like that?" His jaw tightened. For a moment I thought he wouldn't answer. Then he said, "Power." The word didn't make sense. "I don't have power. I'm nobody. I'm human." "Are you?" The question stopped me cold. "What?" He took another step closer. Close enough now that I could feel the heat coming off him. Smell that cedar and smoke scent that made something in my chest pull tight. "Your scent," he said slowly, "is not fully human." My breath caught. "That's impossible." And yet, he tilted his head slightly, studying me. "There's something else in your blood, something old. Dormant, maybe. But there." I shook my head. "My mom was human. I grew up human. I don't know anything about my father, but nothing." His voice was firm. "The seers don't make mistakes. The Rite of Flames doesn't lie. If you were fully human, you wouldn't have survived the summoning, let alone be standing here now." I wanted to argue, to tell him he was wrong, but I couldn't, because deep down, in a place I'd never let myself look, I'd always known something was different. The way I healed faster than Jamie when we got hurt as kids. The way I could see better in the dark than I should. The way sometimes when I was angry or scared, I felt something coil tight in my chest. Something wild and sharp that didn't feel human at all. "I don't understand," I whispered. "Neither do I," Rowan said. "Not yet." He turned and walked to the window, his back to me. "But it doesn't change what needs to happen." "Right, the air. The whole reason I was here. 3 weeks," I said quietly, "until the full moon." "Yes." And then, I couldn't finish the sentence. He glanced back at me over his shoulder. "And then you give me what I need." The bluntness of it sent a spike of anger through my fear. "You mean you use me like a piece of livestock?" His eyes narrowed. "Careful." "Why?" The anger was growing now, hot and reckless. You already made it clear I don't have a choice, that this is a transaction. So why should I pretend it's anything else? He turned fully to face me. The gold in his eyes seemed to glow brighter. You think I want this? His voice was low, dangerous. You think I enjoy the fact that my entire pack's survival depends on producing an heir with a human omega I've never met? Then don't, I shot back. Find someone else. Let me go home. There is no one else. He crossed the space between us in 2 strides. The right chose you. That means you're the only one whose bloodline can survive this. If I let you go, my pack falls. Thousands die. Is that what you want? I want my brother to live, I said, my voice shaking. That's all I've ever wanted. Something flickered in his expression. He stepped back, ran a hand through his hair. Then we're the same. I stared at him. What? You're here to save someone you love. So am I. He gestured vaguely toward the window, toward the citadel, the pack beyond. This isn't about what I want. It's about what I have to do. The anger drained out of me, leaving just exhaustion. He was right. We were both trapped, both doing terrible things for people we loved. So what now? I asked quietly. He was silent for a moment. Then he said, now we make terms. Terms? You want your brother saved. I want an heir. Those are our priorities. He crossed his arms. Everything else is negotiable. I hadn't expected that. What do you mean? I mean, he said carefully, that I have no interest in making this more brutal than it has to be. My throat tightened. The full moon is in 3 weeks, he continued. Until then, you'll stay here. You'll be educated. You'll learn how to survive in this world, because once you're carrying my heir, you'll become the most valuable target in this citadel. The thought made my skin crawl. And you'll be protected, he added, constantly. No one will touch you. No one will harm you. I'll make sure of it. Why? He gave me a look that said the answer should be obvious. Because you're carrying the future of my bloodline. Right. Not because I mattered, because the heir mattered. What do you want in return? I asked. Cooperation. The word hung between us. You want me to stop fighting, I said flatly. I want you to understand that we're on the same side. He held my gaze. I'm not your enemy, Eli. I'm the only thing standing between you and a court full of lichens who would tear you apart the moment they thought I wasn't watching. A chill ran down my spine. You're saying if I fight you, they'll kill me. I'm saying if you fight me, I can't protect you. His voice softened just slightly. And I'd rather not watch you die because you're too stubborn to accept help. I wanted to argue, to tell him I didn't need his protection. But we both knew that was a lie. Fine, I said. I'll cooperate. I'll learn your customs. I'll play the part. Good, but I have conditions too. His eyebrow raised. You're in no position to make demands. Aren't I? I lifted my chin. You just said you need me willing. That means I have leverage. For a long moment, he just stared at me. Then slowly, his mouth curved into something that was almost a smile. You're braver than you look. Or stupider. This time he actually did smile. Just barely. Speak. My brother, I said. I want to see him, to know he's okay, and I want updates, regular ones. Not just, he's fine. I want details. Rowan considered this. Done. Anything else? When this is over, I swallowed hard. When the heir is born, I want to go home. The smile vanished. That's not possible. Why not? Because you'll be the mother of the future alpha. You can't just disappear into the human world. Then let Jamie come here. Let him live in the citadel where it's safe. Rowan was quiet for a long moment. I'll consider it. It wasn't a yes, but it wasn't a no either. Is that all? He asked. I thought about it. One more thing. Go on. The night of the full moon. When it happens. I couldn't look at him. Don't make it worse than it has to be. Silence when I finally dared to glance up. His expression was unreadable. I'm not a monster, Eli, he said quietly. Despite what you might think, Then he turned and walked back to the connecting door, paused with his hand on the frame. Get some sleep. Tomorrow won't be easy. Will any of this be easy? He looked back at me one last time. No, he said, but we'll survive it. The door closed, and I was alone again. But this time something felt different. We had terms, boundaries, and understanding. It was still a nightmare, but maybe, just maybe, it was one I could survive. I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw gold wolf eyes staring back at me, heard that low voice saying, 3 weeks. When pale gray light finally started seeping through the windows, I gave up trying. I pushed myself out of bed and walked to the window. The view was breathtaking in daylight. Mountains stretched in every direction, their peaks dusted with early snow. The forest below was a sea of dark green and gold, and somewhere far in the distance, I could see smoke rising from what looked like a village. Pack territory. All of it. A knock at the door pulled me away from the window. Come in. Kara entered, carrying another tray. Behind her came 2 more servants with armfuls of clothing. Good morning, she said with that same shy smile. Mistress Vivian sent breakfast, and your wardrobe for the day. The clothes they laid out on the bed weren't like anything I'd ever worn. Dark pants that looked tailored, a shirt in deep burgundy that felt like silk, a black jacket with silver buttons. Everything expensive. Everything designed to make me look like I belonged here. Mistress Vivian wants you dressed and ready within the hour, Kara said. Your lessons begin this morning. My stomach twisted. What kind of lessons? History, protocol, court etiquette. Kara's expression turned sympathetic. She's not an easy teacher, but she knows everything about pack hierarchy. If you want to survive here, you'll need to learn from her. Great. I forced down some breakfast. Eggs and toast that tasted amazing, but sat like lead in my stomach. Then I let Kara help me into the clothes. They fit perfectly. Too perfectly. Like they'd been made for me. When I looked in the mirror, I barely recognized myself. I looked like someone important, someone who belonged in a place like this. It was a lie, but maybe that was the point. Another knock. This time when the door opened, it was Vivian. She looked me up and down with those cold blue eyes. Acceptable, she said, which I was pretty sure was the closest thing to a compliment I'd ever get from her. Follow me. She didn't wait to see if I obeyed, just turned and walked out. I followed her through a maze of corridors, stone walls, vaulted ceilings, tapestries showing battles and hunts. Lycans stopped to stare as we passed. Guards in black armor, nobles in silk and fur, servants in gray. All of them watched me with expressions ranging from curiosity to outright hostility. I kept my eyes forward, kept walking. Vivian led me to a large room lined with bookshelves. A massive table dominated the center, covered in maps and scrolls. Sit, she commanded. I sat. She pulled out a heavy leather-bound book and dropped it on the table in front of me with a thud. The history of the Red Crest Pack, she said. You will memorize the lineage of every alpha from the founding to King Rowan. You will learn the treaties, the wars, the alliances. You will know this pack's history better than you know your own name. I stared at the book. It had to be 4 inches thick. How long do I have? 3 weeks. Of course. Why does any of this matter? I asked. I'm just here to bear an heir. Vivian cut me off sharply. Yes, but that heir will be royalty, a prince or princess of the Red Crest Pack. They cannot have a mother who is ignorant of their own heritage. Her words stung more than they should have. I'm not ignorant. You're human. She said it like a curse. You know nothing of our world, our customs, our laws. If you are to be presented to the court as the king's consort, you must be educated. Consort. There was that word again. When will I be presented? I asked. Vivian's mouth thinned. When you are ready, which at this rate may be never. She opened the book to the first page. Begin. The next hours were brutal. Names, dates, battles, treaties. Vivian drilled me relentlessly, her voice sharp and unforgiving every time I stumbled over a name or mixed up a date. My head was spinning by the time she finally closed the book. Enough, she said. You're hopeless, but we'll continue tomorrow. She stood. This afternoon, you will learn proper table etiquette. Tonight you will dine in the Great Hall. My heart sank. With the pack? With the court, she corrected. And you will comport yourself appropriately. The king will be watching, as will everyone else. She left without another word. I sat there staring at the closed book, trying not to panic. Dining in the Great Hall, in front of the entire court, in front of lichens who already hated me. Kara appeared a few minutes later with lunch and a sympathetic smile. How was it? She asked. Awful. She winced. Mistress Vivian is harsh, but she knows what she's doing. If anyone can prepare you for court, it's her. I don't think 3 weeks is enough time to prepare for this, I muttered. Kara set the tray down and hesitated. Can I give you some advice? Please. Don't try to be perfect. You'll fail, and they'll tear you apart for it. She lowered her voice. But if you show strength, even just a little, they'll respect that more than perfection. Strength, I repeated. I'm a human omega in a den of alpha wolves. What strength do I have? The strength to be here at all, Kara said quietly. Most humans would have died of fear by now. The afternoon was worse than the morning. Vivian taught me which fork to use, how to sit, how to hold a wine glass, how to address various ranks of nobility. By the time evening came, my head was pounding and my hands were shaking. Kara helped me dress for dinner. Another tailored outfit, this one in dark blue with silver embroidery that probably cost more than a year's rent. You look good, she said encouragingly. I looked terrified, but I didn't say that. A guard appeared at my door. Not the scarred one from before. A younger lichen with dark hair and watchful green eyes. I'm Marcus, he said. I'll be escorting you to the Great Hall. Vivian's words echoed in my mind. Do not wander the citadel alone. I followed Marcus through more corridors, down a massive staircase toward the sound of voices. Lots of voices. The Great Hall was enormous. Vaulted ceiling, stone pillars, a fireplace big enough to park a car in, and tables. Long wooden tables filled with lichens. Hundreds of them. The noise was deafening. Laughter, conversation, the clatter of plates and glasses. It all stopped the moment I walked in. Every head turned, every eye fixed on me. The silence was suffocating. Marcus led me through the hall toward the high table at the far end. I felt every step, every stare. Rowan sat at the center of the high table, flanked by other nobles. He was dressed in black with a deep red cloak, crown on his head, every inch the king. His gold eyes tracked me as I approached. I couldn't read his expression. Marcus pulled out a chair to Rowan's right. I sat, my hands gripping the edge of the table to keep them from shaking. Rowan didn't acknowledge me, didn't speak, just turned his attention back to the man on his left, a broad-shouldered lichen with graying hair and a thick beard. The hall slowly came back to life. Conversations resumed, but quieter, more guarded. Everyone was still watching, waiting. For what? For me to fail. Servants brought food, platters of roasted meat. Venison, I thought. The smell was rich and bloody. My stomach turned. I picked up the correct fork, cut a small piece, brought it to my mouth, forced myself to chew, to swallow. It tasted like ash. So, a voice said from across the table, this is the human. I looked up. The speaker was a woman. Lichen, beautiful in a cold, sharp way. Dark hair, ice blue eyes. She wore a dress of deep green silk that probably cost more than everything I'd ever owned combined. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Lady Morgana, Rowan said, his voice flat, mind your manners. I'm simply curious, Your Majesty. Her gaze raked over me. We've all heard the rumors. The seers chose a human to bear the royal heir. I merely wanted to see for myself. Several other nobles leaned in, listening. And what do you see? I asked before I could stop myself. Vivian's voice echoed in my head. Show strength. Morgana's smile widened. I see a boy who looks like a stiff wind could break him in half. Laughter rippled down the table. My face burned. "Careful, Morgana," Rowan said quietly. Dangerously. But she ignored him, her attention fixed on me. "Tell me, little human, what makes you think you can survive carrying a lichen child? Most of your kind tear apart from the inside. The birth alone would kill you." The laughter died. Every eye was on me now, waiting to see if I'd crumble. My heart was pounding so hard I could barely hear over it, but I forced myself to meet her gaze. "I guess we'll find out," I said, keeping my voice steady. "But if the seers chose me, then maybe I'm stronger than I look." Morgana's eyes narrowed. "Or maybe the seers made a mistake." "Are you questioning the right?" I asked. The hall went dead silent. Questioning the right was questioning the foundation of lichen tradition. Morgana's smile faltered. "I would never." "Then I suggest you trust their wisdom," I said, "just as the king does." I picked up my wine glass, took a small sip. My hand was shaking, but I didn't let it show. Morgana stared at me for a long moment. Then she inclined her head. Just barely. "Of course." She turned away, her jaw tight. I set my glass down carefully. Beside me, I felt rather than saw Rowan's gaze. When I finally dared to glance at him, his expression was unreadable. But there was something in his eyes, something that looked almost like approval. The rest of the meal passed in tense silence. I ate, I drank, I used the right fork, and I survived. When it was finally over, Marcus escorted me back to my quarters. I collapsed onto the bed the moment the door closed. My whole body was shaking, but I'd done it. I'd faced the court, and I hadn't broken. The connecting door opened. I sat up, my heart jumping into my throat. Rowan stood in the doorway, still in his formal clothes. The crown was gone, but everything else remained. The red cloak, the severity in his posture. "You handled Morgana well," he said. "Not praise, just observation. She hates me. She hates that you exist." He stepped into the room. "There's a difference." "Is there?" He moved to the window, his back to me. The moonlight turned him into silver and shadow. "Morgana was one of the candidates the council proposed before the rite," he said quietly. "Noble bloodline, strong, beautiful, everything a lichen queen should be." My stomach twisted. "And instead, they got me. Instead, the seers chose you." He glanced back over his shoulder. "Which means you have something she doesn't." "What? Stupidity? Desperation?" His mouth twitched, almost a smile. "Compatibility." The word hung in the air between us. He turned to face me fully. "Do you know what it means to rule a pack like this?" he asked. I shook my head. "It means every decision costs something. Every alliance requires sacrifice. Every day I wake up knowing that one wrong move could tear everything apart." His gold eyes held mine. "I didn't choose this life, Eli. I was born into it. Just like you were born into whatever bloodline runs through your veins." "I don't know what runs through my veins," I said quietly. "Neither do I." He ran a hand through his dark hair. That gesture I was starting to recognize as frustration. "But the seers do. And they chose you for a reason." He moved toward the connecting door, then paused. "The court will test you again. They'll push. They'll try to break you." He looked at me one last time. "Don't let them." "Why do you care?" The question came out before I could stop it. He was quiet for a moment. "Because a broken consort can't protect my heir," he said, "and I need you strong. Not for me, for the heir. Always for the heir." He disappeared into his chambers. The door closed. I lay back down, staring at the ceiling. 3 weeks until the full moon. 3 weeks until everything changed. I didn't know how much time had passed. Minutes. Hours. All I knew was that I couldn't stop thinking about his words. A broken consort can't protect my heir. Protect. Not just carry, not just birth. Protect. Like I was supposed to be something more than a vessel. Like I was supposed to matter. The thought was dangerous. I pushed it away and closed my eyes, willing sleep to come. It didn't. Instead, I heard it. A sound from beyond my window. Low, mournful, a howl. Then another, and another. The full moon. My eyes snapped open. No, it couldn't be 3 weeks already. But when I turned to look out the window, there it was, massive and silver, hanging in the sky like a judgment. My heart started racing. The door opened. Rowan stood there, and this time he was different. His shirt was gone, just bare skin and muscle, and the firelight behind him turning everything gold. His eyes were brighter, burning. The lunar energy rolled off him in waves. "It's time," he said, his voice rougher than before. Deeper. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. He crossed the room in 3 strides and stopped in front of me, close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from his skin. "Eli," my name on his lips. "Look at me." I forced myself to meet his gaze. "I need you to understand something," he said quietly. "This doesn't have to be what you think it is." "What do you mean?" He reached out slowly, giving me time to pull away, and brushed his fingers against my cheek. The touch sent electricity down my spine. "The bond," he said, "it's not just physical. It's not just about creating an heir." His thumb traced along my jaw. "When a lichen bonds with someone, truly bonds, it's forever. It's soul deep. It means you're mine and I'm yours. It means I would burn this entire world down before I let anyone hurt you." My breath caught. "But I'm human." "You're more than that." His other hand came up to cup my face. "I can smell it in you, something wild, something that calls to the wolf in me." "I don't understand." "Neither do I," he admitted. "But I know this. The moment you walked into my chambers, something in me recognized you, not as a tool, not as a means to an end, as mine." His forehead pressed against mine. "And that terrifies me more than any war I've ever fought." Tears burned in my eyes. "Why?" "Because it means I can't just use you and walk away. It means I have to keep you, protect you, make sure you survive this, because if you don't," his voice cracked, "if you don't, I don't think I will either." The vulnerability in his words shattered something inside me. "Rowan, I'm not asking you to love me," he said quickly. "I know what this is. I know you're here for your brother. But I'm asking you to let me make this bearable, to let me make it something we both survive." I pulled back just enough to look at him, really look at him. This wasn't the cold alpha king who'd growled commands at me. This was a man, scared, desperate, trying to do the right thing in an impossible situation. Just like me. "Okay," I whispered. His eyes widened. "Okay? Make it bearable." Something shifted in his expression. Relief, hope, something deeper I couldn't name. He kissed me. Not rough, not claiming. Gentle. Like I was something precious. Like I mattered. And for the first time since this nightmare began, I kissed him back. Not because I had to, because some part of me, some wild, hidden part I didn't understand, wanted to. The bond formed between us like a living thing. I felt it snap into place. Silver threads wrapping around my heart, pulling tight, his scent wrapped around me, cedar and smoke and safety, and somehow, impossibly, it felt right. When he pulled back, his eyes were wide with wonder. "You feel it," he breathed. "The bond." I nodded, unable to speak. "That means—" He stopped, shook his head like he couldn't believe it. "That means you're not just compatible. You're my mate, my true mate." The words should have terrified me. Instead, they felt like coming home. He kissed me again, and this time when he guided me back to the bed, I didn't resist, didn't fight. I let him show me what it meant to be cherished instead of used, to be wanted instead of needed, to be loved instead of owned. And when the moon reached its peak and the bond was sealed, I understood. This wasn't the end of my life. It was the beginning of something new, something I never thought I'd have. Something worth fighting for. 3 months later, I stood at the window of our chambers, not mine, ours, watching the sunrise paint the mountains gold. Behind me, Rowan stirred in bed. "Come back to sleep," he murmured, his voice rough with exhaustion. I smiled and turned. He looked exhausted. We both were, but happy. I can't. Kara's bringing Jamie for breakfast, remember? That got his attention. He sat up, running a hand through his messy hair. Right, how is he? Good. Great, actually. My chest swelled with warmth. Dr. Callum says he's fully recovered. The treatment worked. Rowan smiled, that rare, genuine smile I'd come to treasure. I'm glad. I walked back to the bed and sat on the edge. His hand immediately went to my stomach. Still flat. But not for long. The air was growing inside me. Safe, protected. Ours. Are you scared? He asked quietly. Terrified, I admitted, but not alone. He pulled me down into his arms, and I let myself sink into his warmth. Never alone, he promised. I've got you. Always. I believed him, because somewhere between the terror and the negotiations and the impossible bond, we'd found something real. Something neither of us expected. Love. And when our son was born 6 months later, strong and healthy, with gold eyes and my smile, we named him James. After the brother who'd brought me here. After the love that saved us both. The court learned to accept me. Morgana even became an ally eventually. And the Red Crest Pack thrived under a king who'd learned that strength wasn't just about power. It was about protecting the ones you loved. Even when love found you in the most impossible places. Even when it started with 6 words and a desperate bargain. Straight to my bed, I need an heir. But it ended with forever. And that made every terrified moment worth it. He told me, straight to my bed, I need an heir. But what he didn't tell me, what neither of us knew, was that he needed me just as much. Some bonds aren't forced. They're found. And ours? It was written in the stars long before the flames ever spoke my name. So here's my question for you. Would you have walked through those doors? Would you have traded everything for someone you love? Drop your answer in the comments. I want to know if you would have been brave enough to face the wolf. And if you loved Eli and Rowan's story, subscribe. Because our son's story? That's a whole different kind of wild. See you in the next one.